Hello, my name is Gianna Mori, and I'm with the Santa Barbara City College Career Center. And today we are hosting the Ventura Sheriff's Office. We have Scott Van Tassell and Matt Theobold today to talk about the process of getting hired in the Sheriff's Department and also what the job is like. So we're so excited to have you both here. Please take it away, and we're just so excited to hear about what you have to say.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. We appreciate it. On behalf of the Sheriff's Office, I think the important thing to do right now, especially with COVID and all that, is to get out via Zoom, so that still gives people the opportunity to learn about the job, ask questions. We'll give you feedback on when you get into the process, the background, the agency as a whole. I've been on, just a little bit about me, I've been on for 22 years. I was medically retired in 2008 due to an on-duty collision. They brought me back as a background investigator and the Academy Recruit Coordinator. And I can just say during my time working patrol and in courts, in the jail, thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned a lot. And I'm just so blessed to be here and hiring the future of our agency. Matt?
Yeah, my name is Matt Fubol, and I've been on the agency since the year 2000. So 22 years in a couple different roles. I went to the Academy in 2002. Since then, I've had an opportunity to go throughout the agency, working at 4 different patrol stations at both jails. I've been a detective at 3 different assignments, and my current assignment is as a background investigator. And it's been a great opportunity. Every few years I get something new and learn a lot, and it's a career that I'm super grateful for, and I've enjoyed every stop that I've had. It's a great job, and it's a great place to work.
All right, so just to go into a little bit about the agency itself, as far as when people ask what's the difference between the Sheriff's Office and a police department, police agency, we could use Santa Barbara City PD as an example to the Sheriff's Office. One of the things about the Sheriff's Office for myself, the reason I selected it was because of the opportunities. After graduating the academy, you do go into a jail setting, which is more of a controlled environment, working around the inmates, learning a lot about symptomology when they come into the jails, making arrests, and the rights that they have as far as being an inmate working in the jail that you need to make sure you abide to. From there, I went over to courts because I wanted to learn how to testify. That's another part of our job that we're responsible for, is not only the jail setting, but the courthouse. And for our agency, I'll let Matt talk a little bit about the 5 contract cities that we're responsible to patrol.
Yeah, so fortunately for me, I got to work in 4 of them, at 4 different stations. So we service, provide police services opportunities, police services for the city of Ojai and the surrounding areas, Fillmore area, Thousand Oaks, Moore Park, as well as Camarillo. And we have a 6th patrol station at our headquarters in Ventura that where we deploy to patrol all the unincorporated areas surrounding Ventura and Oxnard.
So let's talk a little bit about getting a position with the Sheriff's Office. One of the things to note, especially if you're in school right now, we run 2 academies a year, one in April, one in October. From the time that you apply and you take the written exam, that exam is good for 1 year. So a lot of times as the department's recruiter, I'll get a phone call and they'll say, you know, what's the best time for me to apply? So try to figure out your schedule, when you're going to graduate. Know there's an academy in April, one in October, and then backtrack about 6 months to a year and start the application process. When you submit the application, and I'm going to let Matt go into this because he does a lot more of the backgrounds than I do. I'm more the recruiter. But once you submit the application, I tell everybody the important thing to do if you're going to go into this career and you're going to select an agency, this is not a trial job. This is a 30 to a 35-year career that you're looking at. So I tell everybody, when you do that, research the agency that you want to work for. Know the ins and outs about that agency, know things about the finances to that agency, know about the morale of that agency before you go work there, because 35 years being on an agency is a long time. For me, this agency fit for me, one, because of the size. It's the largest agency in the county, staffed by about 800 sworn deputies. And for me, the options was the thing that I really wanted. I wanted to work in a jail setting to educate myself. I wanted to work in the courthouse to educate myself. And then the options, when you go to patrol, as far as like SWAT, mounted, motors, work in the academy. Our air unit has 3 Blackhawks right now that we're working off of. So I was all about that. But as far as the background, I'm going to let Matt go into that because that's his expertise as far as what he's doing right now. The do's and the don'ts in the background, and I can tell you when it gets intense about who you are as a person. Honesty is the most important thing. When we have somebody, if we were to send typically 10 people to a polygraph, we could get anywhere from 4 to 6 of those people would fail the polygraph. And when we sit them down and we talk to them, typically out of those 4 to 6, 3 of those probably could have continued in the process had they been honest about what they didn't state that they did, or even if it was like possessions of marijuana or something like that. Honesty, honesty, honesty will get you this job. So like I said, I'm going to let Matt talk more about the background, and then I'll talk about, some of the preparation for the academy and stuff like that.
Yeah, so the background is going to test you a little bit because it is a lengthy process and it demonstrates a commitment just to get through it. Like Scott indicated, when you apply for the job and you come and interview for this job, you're asking us to trust you with law enforcement responsibilities, which is a big deal. And so if you're sitting across from me and I ask you questions about the agency and you don't know the answers, or ask you questions about law enforcement and you've not demonstrated that you've actually given a lot of thought or consideration for what the job entails, then you're losing my trust and my confidence that you're coming in. Other areas, like knowing what to expect when you go to an academy, that's a really big deal because the academy is something that's going to test you very thoroughly. And a lot of people don't make it through. So when I'm going to give you an opportunity and you're going to fill one of the slots that we have allocated to go to the academy, you should be ready when you sit down and interview with me. You should be ready to go to the academy. It's very disheartening when I hear things like, well, I'll get there. I'm not physically ready or prepared at this point, but I'll get there. Well, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence to offer you a job if you're not prepared for the position when you sit down. And then when we interview you, we're going to go through a packet of information that you provided to us. And that information includes some criminal history. It includes your finances a little bit. It includes prior jobs. And so essentially we're trying to assess whether or not you're competitive for a position that we have to offer you. And if you're not competitive, then it's hard for us to move you forward. But things you can do to show that you are competitive is education, which if you're watching this, that's something that you're active in. You can have a solid work history where you've had consistency at work, you've had good performance reviews at work, you have people who have supported you at work as far as moving up and gaining additional responsibilities in the jobs you've held. And then you just lived a life that has prepared you for this. Other steps you hopefully have taken is at least you've maybe gone on a ride along, you've gone on a jail tour, you've communicated with people who are personal friends of yours or connections to you that have law enforcement experience, so you would really gather a great understanding of what you're getting into. It's not just some whim where you put in an application and then let's just kick the tires on this and see what happens. It's a big commitment, as Scott said, 30 to 35-year commitment on our part to you and your part to us. So you just have to gain that trust, like I indicated earlier. And we deal with people, every interview is a little bit different, but the trust aspect of it is big, and then the integrity, like Scott says. I have no expectation that any one of my applicants is a perfect person. I've yet to see anyone walk on water at this point, but I need you to be honest when you come in an interview, and that's just how we operate in law enforcement. If you can't own your mistakes and acknowledge what you've learned from them, then it's going to be hard for us to work with you. So what I expect is for you to answer every question honestly, even if it makes you look bad. If you're in a situation where you're ashamed of something and you don't like to talk about it, or you're just fearful that it might not make you look like a good applicant and you might not move forward, well, you still need to be honest about it. Because if we find an integrity issue, that'll follow you throughout your entire pursuit of any law enforcement career. Because as a background investigator, I'm friends with background investigators that are good, working relationships with many other agencies. And so we share the information. And so it's important that you have integrity and you own all your mistakes so that we can get you through the process. With the mistakes, like I said, you don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be honest.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about once you get the job and you're going to be sent to the academy. I believe there's approximately 53 post academies, law enforcement academies throughout the state. Ventura County is ranked very high out of those 53. And the reason that is it's paramilitary. It is physically and mentally draining. It is going to challenge you physically and mentally. So some people think, I made it through the background. I'm good. I got the job. Well, out of 100 applications, only one of those people get the job. Going through the academy, we used to put in, say, 60, only 30 would graduate. It is very difficult. The education portion, the memo writing, just the study and the overall being tested, the physical demands of the academy gets a lot of people. A lot of people that are cross trainers and stuff like that struggle in our program. So 7 months of your life is basically committed to the Ventura County Criminal Justice Training Center. Extremely, extremely rewarding when you graduate, because you have definitely completed and earned the right to own that badge. So we definitely stress to people, as Matt said, when you're going to apply for a position, and both Santa Barbara Sheriff, Santa Barbara PD, and all the agencies in Ventura County attend the Ventura County Criminal Justice Training Center. Some of the agencies, Santa Barbara Sheriff and Santa Barbara City, can't send to other colleges, but they do send to our training center as well, because of the reputation it has. So as much as it's very rewarding completing the background, it's even more rewarding when you complete the academy, but it is no easy task by any means. I think since 2008, I've trained approximately 1,500 recruits for the training center in all areas of the pre-academy, from reporting the staff to PT verbiage, drill formation, classroom environment. It is very demanding. So should you choose to come into this career, know that as difficult it is to get through the background and being honest through that, it is also very challenging just to complete the 7-month academy. Do you agree with that, Matt?
Absolutely. I mean, every aspect has to be going into not only the background process, but your preparedness and your commitment to being in this profession is tested every day throughout the academy. And the way I've described it to a lot of my applicants is every day in every facet of the academy is a test, and every test is something that you can pass or fail. And so that puts a lot of stress on you, a lot of pressure on you, but you start to acclimate as the academy goes along. However, you're tested academically, physically, your leadership is tested, and each step along the way you're learning, and it's really overall I would call it a reflection of our career, in that you're constantly learning and adjusting and changing to new demands that come into law enforcement.
For sure. And some of the things, we're very blessed. I mean, we've gone out to your school before. Now that we have Zoom, I'm more one-on-one person or going into a classroom. But some of the things that I tell the students, physically prepare yourself before you even consider going to this academy. Research the agency. And here's the other big thing. We are really going to go into your background. So I know there's a lot of stuff that is shared on social media, and it really gets a lot of people in trouble. So if I could say anything, I would say be very cautious on what you share, because it definitely follows you. And I know a lot of people believe in the delete word as far as deleting some of that, but I can assure you stuff can be found. Let's just put it at that. I think this is probably a good time to open it up to some questions.
I've got one question in the chat
Okay.
that I'd like to ask and record the answer to. And this is from Sylvina. She said, I always try and encourage my students to get their four-year degree in something other than criminal justice. After being in the field for so many years, which degree do you think is the most beneficial for a law enforcement career?
So my degree is in criminal justice, sorry, Sylvina. But no, I got that degree after I started working, but it's, I would definitely agree that there's value, and it demonstrates you are a better or more competitive applicant with a four-year degree. And so definitely pursue that. And especially with the new legislation that came out, I think it was this year, that you have to be 21 before you can work in law enforcement. I mean, it was pretty seldom that we would hire under 21 anyways, but you really have now the time to get through that degree with that law. So the degree that I would recommend is really, I mean, business is a very versatile degree. And I mean, one of the favorite assignments that I've had has been as a detective that worked in forgery and fraud. And I really feel like the business aspect of things would have been a huge benefit to me if I was able to understand some of the tracking of money a little better. I probably would have hit the ground running a little quicker as far as that goes with some kind of business degree. But yeah, I'd say anything that you're interested in is going to be beneficial overall. But I think that is a versatile degree that I would have pursued if I could do math.
If I could just add to that, there's a lot of people that don't know that we are affiliated with Ventura College. So that's one of the things when somebody talks to me about going to the academy and they're interested in something else, I actually sway them to go down that road, because when they go through a background with our agency, or even if they self-sponsor themselves through Ventura College, they're able to buy those credits. So when they graduate the academy, they're going to have 38 units towards criminal justice. So what a better way that you're employed by an agency, especially our agency, going through the academy. We pay for all your training, we buy your uniforms. You have the option to buy your credits so that when you graduate, you have that and you're getting paid basically to go to school. So it's kind of a win-win. So I tell everybody now, if they ask me my opinion on that, I tell them, if you have a desire to get some other degree, this is what you're going to get just going through the academy, should you choose to pay for those credits while you're attending there, because you're going to take the exams no matter what, going through the training center. So that's just some of the recommendations I give from the recruitment standpoint.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have another question that's asks, basically, do any crimes or infractions that you committed as a minor affect your status, your hiring status, or does your record stay sealed because you were a minor?
So when you go through the background process, we ask for any of your contacts with the police and if there were arrests and that kind of stuff. So you also sign a waiver saying that we are going to be able to have access to any of your records. And so whereas it's sealed with the courts for the purpose of employment, we still ask for that information. And so it is something that will be a factor in our consideration for sure.
Thank you. And Sylvina, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Is it okay if I turn my camera on, or do you want me to leave it off?
Prefer camera on if we can. I like seeing somebody that's asking a question. It's very difficult for us when we're not out there in person. But.
I know it's hard for me too. So the reason why I asked that question about the four-year degree in criminal justice, not because I don't like that degree, so no offense to anybody that got their degree. In fact, I encourage it for the junior college level so that they have a degree in that already. But I know several people who have gone to school and got their four-year degree in criminal justice and then never were able to get through the background process of whatever law enforcement agency they were looking to get into. So then they had this criminal justice degree and weren't ever able to use it. And so I always just encourage people, like you said, the background process is so just strict, and there's the psychological evaluation, like you mentioned, the polygraph and the physical. And so if they couldn't get through that for whatever reason, at least they would have something else. But then I worked in the field for a long time and I worked with a lot of other people. And so I just wondered for you, because I worked different agency than you guys. And I knew sociology was always good, communications, things like that. But for somebody who's going into actual law enforcement field and not corrections, like where I was, what do you guys think it would be the best? If somebody were to ask me, if a student were to ask me, what should I get my degree in if I want to be a cop or deputy?
I would say business.
Yeah,
Bill business?
That's what I was saying earlier, was a business degree has some value and translates in part to some of the jobs that I've had in investigations. And then it is probably one of the more versatile degrees to fall back on if law enforcement doesn't work out for you. Then it translates into the private industry much better than a psychology or sociology degree.
Okay, and then nobody else has any other questions. If I could ask another question.
Go for it, Sylvina, and then
Okay.
I'm going to stop the recording after this question is answered.
Okay, so I see a lot of negativity with students, especially this young adult age range towards law enforcement. And I feel like there's been a decrease of people wanting to go into that field. And so I try to encourage that, this is still a really great field. And so I'm just wondering what your agency has changed or is doing to recruit really good people that could change that mindset of this is not a good profession.
It's really tough with our times right now. I mean, just with some of the stuff that's happened over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But we're certainly blessed at the amount of applications on people that still want to do this career. And one of the things that we're not going to do is we're not going to lower our standards. We're going to keep our standards where they've always been. And we're going to go out and, like right now, we're advertising on the Ventura freeway at the auto mall so that any of the cars go by know that we're hired. The only thing that we can really do is go out and present a rewarding career, a good agency, good morale, great people that work for us. And no matter what, most people, even like people that grow up in a household where your parents are law enforcement or relatives or whatever, if they were affected by that as a child and while they're growing up, and that's an interest they have, typically they're going to want to follow that. Or if you get somebody that in their heart, they want to help people, they will come to this profession. We totally appreciate you, trying to motivate them to let them understand that it's a good career, because the bottom line, like anything, if one person does something that's bad or not right, it reflects as a whole. And that could be any profession, not just law enforcement. So, with some of the things that have gone in the past, as far as law enforcement, I can say one thing right now, it's amazing to me if I go out in uniform or whatever during the pre-academy, how many people stop me and thank me for my service. It's just, we've gone through some bad times, but I can just say, I certainly see when the COVID thing, hopefully we can get past this and people get back out there and we have that one-on-one interaction with everybody without wearing a mask, because you can't see somebody frown and smile when they're wearing a mask. So I really think once we get past some of this, that reflection on law enforcement will hopefully go away to where more people want to apply.
Yeah, so I'll just add a couple of small things to it. Huge thing is our personal interactions, and we have an approach to our job where every interaction is a big interaction, whether it's an infraction or a felony investigation. We have the opportunity to not only influence the person and make an ally with the person that we're making contact with, but we know that if you're pulled over by the police, that whole stop is going to be not only remembered for a long time by that person, but then they leave that stop, that traffic stop, and they go tell their family and friends all about how they were treated and that kind of thing. So we do our best to make every interaction a professional and good interaction, so we build allies with the community. And then another big step that we've taken is we really try and build relationships with the media, and when we send out information about our investigations and such, we're being more transparent. And so we're really trying to open ourselves up. And I think that's really reflected in law enforcement in whole, that our agency is very, very much taken a proactive approach in that, so that we are building community relationships. And I think it's a good thing. And in Ventura County, my experiences are definitely positive. It's, so common for me to be thanked by people in the community for anonymous people to pay for my lunch that I never meet, and it's encouraging on a regular basis. And I know the negativity is surrounding us, and in large part that is from media. What I tell people all the time is, if you turn off media and go based on personal experiences, it's pretty positive. We don't have bad experiences, and the community is supportive in overwhelmingly large part.
And I can say probably one of the biggest impacts in my entire career, 22 years, was when we lost Sergeant Healis. I can't say enough about this community. I mean, the people from Thousand Oaks to bringing him to Ventura, just astronomical, the support and the love for the loss that we had on this agency just really made me look back at my career and say, I'm in this profession for that. I mean, the people that cared and just came out, showed their love and support for our entire agency, especially the Healis family, was astronomical.
Yeah, I was there on one of the bridges.
I'm sure.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so much good information. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording right now, and then we'll take some student questions.